Hey, what's up guys? So with midnight finally here and a lot of updates to UIs and tons of stuff going on, I wanted to quickly make a video on just how to set my UI up from start to finish. It's something I get asked over on the Twitch all the time, and it's something that I put a ton of work into. And it's something I give away for free just over on the Twitch and in my Discord. If you want my UI, it's always for free. So I'm going to do an entire step-by-step guide on how I set up everything from beginning to end, including a section about if you want to make your own custom icons. So I'll include how I import my custom icons, but I'm also going to include a section at the very end of this, how I actually make them. So if that's something you're interested in, that'll be in the section. Let's jump right into it. All right, first step, if you want to get my UI, join my Discord. There's an entire section in there for my ArsynUi stuff. So the first thing that you should download after you've exited WoW entirely is download ElvUi, then download ElvUi Windtools. ElvUi is going to be available at tuckui.org. I'll have a link to it in the description. Or if you're using WoW or whatever, you can download it off there. ElvUi Windtools should also be on there, or it's on CurseForge, wherever you find your add-ons. Windtools is just a collection of plugins for ElvUi, and it's also what I'm using for the Cooldown Viewer. So it's my way of kind of getting around the fact that ElvUi doesn't have great settings for the Cooldown Manager. There's still some stuff that I'm trying to adjust, and I'll be constantly making updates to the ElvUi profile, but I'll try and do pings in the Discord if I'm going to be doing any big updates, but there's going to be a bunch of updates to the ElvUi as I'm working on things. So, but Windtools is the thing I'm using right now to kind of help us adjust some of those more settings because it has more things in there. And then it's got a bunch of other goodies for ElvUi. And then Plater is what I'm using for my nameplates. Bigwigs for just reskinning the Blizzard like boss timers and stuff like that. Details for reskinning the Blizzard DPS meter. Bugsack and Buggrapper just grab Lua errors and help stop, a bunch of lag and stuff like that. Lag will still happen, but it helps kind of collect them from getting those big Lua web things. And then WarpDeplete is what I'm using for my Mythic Plus timer. There are some other add-ons I'm using, but for the most part, this is the main core of my UI. So make sure you get all those downloaded from wherever you want to download your add-ons. And then you'll go down, you'll download my shared media. If you want my custom icons, you can also download those now. This is the perfect time to do it with WoW completely closed. Then you're gonna go to your WoW folder, wherever it's stored, go into WoW, and then pick the version that you wanna install it into. So if you wanna do it on PTR, or if you wanna do it on beta or whatever, it doesn't matter. Then go into the retail folder, then go into the interface folder, and then go into add-ons, and then paste my shared media folder. So you'll see my shared media folders here and here, paste those in here. If you want to do my custom icons, as I post in the thing, you should also go to this website. I'll link in the description as well. This is Clean Icons from Econom Edition. Download this, and then that will give you a folder. There's a bunch of stuff talking about how to install this interface folder, and then that will give you this icons folder, or you can just make an icons folder if you don't want to download all those. And then this will give you high resolution versions of every icon in the game. The person that's working on this project basically updates this thing every time there's a major patch, so kudos to that person. And then just paste these in there and they'll just HD versions of every icon. If you're playing at 1440 or 4K, I would highly recommend grabbing these. It helps a ton. And then the other thing I would highly recommend if you want is these ElvUi login screen and character select buttons. I get asked about this all the time. This is how you reskin these buttons or like this panel or whatever. So if you want that, there's a whole thing on here, how to do that as well. There's a similar situation to that. You're just going to grab those files and put them in this World of Warcraft, whatever version you want, interface folder. Not the add-ons folder, the interface folder. And that'll reskin all those buttons for that. I just want to throw this in here real quick in case you've never had to do this, because I think add-on managers exist and some people have had to do this before. If you download ElvUi from tuck.org or tuckui or whatever, you're going to extract the folder and then you're just going to open it up and you're just going to copy these three things. Copy these, put them in your add-ons interface folder. And just paste them in here. So if you've never had to do that before, that's how you're going to do that. You're going to go into whatever version that you want. So again, like I said in the other ones, this one doesn't have anything, right? So it's just, there's nothing in here. And I'm just pasting this in this folder. That's pretty much how you do that that's how we used to have to do that for add-ons. So if you've never had to do that before, that's how you do that now. One other thing I do want to cover is custom fonts. So you can replace fonts in the game in terms of like replacing a bunch of elements using ElvUi and stuff like that. But if you want to replace the like base combat font and a bunch of fonts across your entire WoW without having to use any add-ons, you can replace the actual font that the game uses for certain things. So for instance, if you go into this folder in your retail or beta or whatever you want to place it in, there's a folder called fonts. And in that folder, there's going to be a bunch of other things right here. But the ones you want to look for are these three. So the game uses different fonts for different things. For me, I just replaced all three of them with the same font because I wanted pop and semi-bold across the thing for everything. So if you don't know or if you know what font you want to use, or if you just want to use pop and semi-bold, you can go to Google Fonts, just go search Poppins or whatever, download Poppins. I use Poppins semi-bold for this or whatever. So that's going to be this one right here. Sorry, this one right here. Download that. And then you're going to take that Poppins semi-bold file and you're going to put it in this retail fonts folder. And then you're going to rename it exactly what this is named. So you're going to delete the other one that's named that in here. And then you're going to replace that file with the Poppins semi-bold file, but you're going to rename it that. So that way the game thinks that's the font file. So as you can see, the real font name is Poppins semi-bold, but as far as the game's concerned, every time it looks for that font, that's what font's in there. There's a written version of this on Wowhead. I'll link in the description below, but just briefly wanted to cover, that's how you replace like base in-game fonts as well. So we're covering like replacing every element of your UI right now without necessarily having to use add-ons. So all of this shared media stuff, and those custom icons, the custom icons and mainly the font, you don't even need an add-on for. This will do it just automatically. So now let's jump into WoW. We'll import all the profiles, get things working from there. All right, so when you first boot up the game, this is currently the beta, but I'm just doing this to kind of show how to set up the UI stuff. You should see all of the buttons kind of replaced and all your panels replaced. And if you did custom fonts, then you'll see your fonts replaced throughout as well. If you didn't replace any of that stuff, or if you didn't grab all that, then obviously it'll be the same. But I just want to quickly start from there, and then we're going to boot in. You can also check from there and make sure that all of your add-ons are enabled. I'll just do that when we get actually in the game. I'll hit escape, go to add-ons, make sure that everything is enabled. Looks like ElvUi wasn't enabled. Details, plater, WarpDeplete, all that good stuff. Hit a quick little reload. And then I'm going to go back to my Discord and I'm going to grab those links that you'll see in my actual Discord for every profile. So you'll see in here, I have my ElvUi link that's linked to Luego or whatever. Then you'll see my Windtools link, which is just a re-entry link, which is basically like Pastebin, just a quick little thing like that. Don't worry about all the strings of text, it's fine. And then you can grab my plater if you want. And then these are the Blizzard HUD ones too. So we're gonna talk about these. So those are also on Wago. If you want to grab my details, that's in there as well. And then if you want to grab my Cooldown Manager profiles, that'll be for like Soul Officer and Hellcaller. I have two different ones, and then this will just cover custom icons, stuff like that. So let's jump right back over here. And then this will kind of just help you set up. I'm going to be using Plater, so disable ElvUi nameplates. And then the first thing I'm going to do is import my Blizzard UI HUD. So we'll get this ElvUi thing set up. Just follow all the setups. Just, click the buttons or whatever. New profile. You can do a shared profile if you want. If you're going to be using it for everything, it's all good. And then I'm just going to go ahead and, skip that. We'll do class or whatever. Skip that. It doesn't really matter. All it's going to be getting adjusted. Now, this UI scale thing does matter. I play at 1440p, so I'm going to have mine at 5.333333 or whatever. Whatever you play at or whatever you want your UI scale to be is up to you. However, all of my stuff is designed for my 1440p resolution, so if anything looks a little different, that's going to be the main reason. There are also some possibilities that things just import weird, so, it's all good. But we'll get all that done, and then we will import my Blizzard HUD profile first. So we're going to hit escape, edit mode, and then go here. We already have ArsynUi, so I'm just going to go and delete this real quick. Or we'll just do an import new one, whatever. Boom. And then ArsynUi, whatever you want to name it is fine. I'm just going to name it too. And then things are going to look a little scuffy. We'll see what happens, okay? We'll see what happens. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my ArsynUi Soul Harvester import profile too. So that's edit mode. And then I'm just going to click this Advanced Cooldown Manager. If you don't have Advanced Cooldown Manager enabled, just go to Options, Gameplay Enhancements, and then you'll see Enable Cooldown Manager. And then you can do it from in there, but I always do it from edit mode. Click this, Advanced Cooldown Manager, and then I already have them imported, but I'll import them again. Apparently I already have the maximum amount of ones, so let me just delete this one real quick. And then import this guy. We'll see if it works. Have a Soul Harvester. And then this should have the exact same icons in the layout that I have the icons. It looks like it's adding Demonic Gateway. If you have an icon up here that you don't want up here, you can just grab it, bring it down here. So I think on the beta, they did add some more buffs and things like that to track in here. But just a quick little synopsis on that. If you want an icon up there, just grab it and drag it up there. If you don't want an icon up there, grab and drag it out. With that imported, you can kind of see it laid it out how I like to have my stuff laid out. It looks like the buffs kind of got a little scuffed. So maybe those are a little weird, but we can just grab those and edit those a little bit. Just move them, wherever you want. And then we're going to grab my ElvUi profile. Go to ElvUi, go to Profiles, go to Import. And then in that Wago thing, you'll hit copy import string. Looks like this over here. Grab copy import string. This is what you'll do on every Wago profile. You can close that out if you want. Grab my ElvUi profile. If you followed all the first steps, you won't have this issue. Grab my ElvUi profile from Wago. If you don't know, let's open up that link that's in the Discord. You go here, click this little import string, close that out. Then go to this first one, click this, and click import. And then when you do that, everything should get set up immediately how I have it. If you have Windtools on, you will see that there's like a shadow. If you like that, that's totally fine. If you don't like that, you can just go to Windtools, go to skins, and then under this, disable shadow. Go into Windtools. If you have the shadow thing turned off, that's all good. Then you're gonna go into advanced profiles, paste that Windtool string, hit accept, and then hit import. And then that should override all the Windtool settings, and it should update everything exactly how I have everything. If for whatever reason it doesn't, just try it a couple times. I had to do it like twice, and then it finally worked. So that's how I'm rescaling what these icons look like. That's how I'm rescaling these guys. You might have to move some of this stuff around a little bit to get it pixel perfect if you want. Like you can just click on this and then use your arrow keys if you want. And then, because I think there's still some issues with importing Blizzard HUD and things like that, it seems like. So I have hidden action bars down here, and I have action bars here. This is the Blizzard Cooldown Manager like we talked about. There's action bars up here. There's an action bar up here. If you're not sure where all the action bars are, you can just go to movers, and here's your action bars, things like that. These are mouse over bars down here. This is where I just have all of my normal abilities. You can enable these to not be mouse over bars if you want. Just go to unit frames, or sorry, just go to action bars, then go to player bars, and then 1, 2. You can find out which action bar it is right here, bar 6. And then bar 1, bar 2, bar 4, stuff like that. And then if you want to make them not mouse over anymore, you can just click this little thing, mouse over. Same with this one, click that. And then you can do that. And then if you want to, you can also do /KB, and that'll allow you to quickly keybind everything here if you want. And then now that we have ElvUi kind of set up, for the most part, I would say hopefully that kind of covers that whole setup, which I feel like a lot of people kind of struggle with, especially the whole Windtools thing. So quick little recap on all that. Go to profile, go to import, paste my ElvUi string into this first one, and then go to Windtools, disable the shadows and the skins feature if you don't want the shadow. And then I think you might have to refresh because it seemed like that might have caused some problems. And then go into advanced, go to profiles, and then paste my Windtools profile, hit accept, hit import, and then that should help hopefully kind of restructure everything how I want it. And then we're gonna go and open up Plater. We're gonna get our nameplates imported. So do the same thing, go to Wago. Then we're gonna go to profiles and then import profile, paste that, then hit OK. Already exists for me, we'll just override it. Boom, Plater's imported now. That one I haven't had any problems with importing, any issues with that. There might be some things going on with Plater just in general. Plater's been getting a bunch of updates. I try and push an update as frequently as I can to keep up with any updates we're having, but for the most part, I think everything should be okay. I did notice something with my Plater profile that was happening with specifically overriding threat targets. So this one right here, which is currently enabled, if that's happening for you and you want them to still be colored for bosses, mini bosses, and casters and stuff like that, just disable this. I'm gonna push that update again in my Plater profile, but in case for whatever reason it turns back on, this turned back on automatically for me with an update. That's where that's located. So then we're gonna go to details, open this guy up, go to profiles here. My profile is already here, but we'll just import profile. You're gonna do another one of those import strings from this guy, from reentry or whatever. You'll see the ArsynUi details, copy all this stuff. You can also do like a select all kind of copy on here, but just be careful you don't want to copy these like random little buttons or whatever. You're gonna go in here, copy all that, paste it. It seems like there's some issues sometimes if you have to load a long string in there. Paste that in there, then hit OK. And then we'll just do, you know, whatever. ArsynUi 2. And then that should update all that kind of stuff. I can just reset this real quick, and we'll switch to a different profile for this just so we can know that it's actually working. There's what that one looks like, ArsynUi 2, boom, switch all that kind of stuff. If for whatever reason any of these like are not set up correctly, which sometimes it happens, unlock, lock, all that kind of stuff. I've been having an issue where this overall one has been changing to dynamic over and over again. I don't know what's causing that problem. If you don't have that, great. But if it does happen, just let you know, I don't know what's causing that right now. just a heads up on that one. For WarpDeplete, there aren't really any profiles for WarpDeplete. However, I have, you just do /warp, by the way, to open that up, or you can just go into add-ons and then, just go into options and then add-ons and then WarpDeplete. And then you can do demo mode so you can see what it looks like. So I have pictures in my Discord of how I have a bunch of this stuff set up, but for the most part, you might just have to kind of go through and mess with a couple of things if you want. But essentially the big thing I'm using is I'm not using Expressway. I use Monster Rat for everything, for like all the numbers and stuff like that. But that's just font settings. If you only use Expressway, it doesn't matter. I think I have certain colors and stuff like that. I will have pictures in the Discord of like all the WarpDeplete settings if you want. But if they ever get profiles you can actually import, then I will always share that profile. But I kind of want to just quickly go over it. You can just go in and kind of change these things very easily in there. You can change them to the same one that I'm using if you want. And then I think the only thing that I changed on retail was the way that this is formatted. And I think I just did a custom one. So I had, instead of the slash, I just added this. And that kind of follows my like normal like formatting for everything. So I don't think that there's anything necessarily that I changed heavily in any other way other than just kind of keeping the formatting similar to what I keep my formatting with. So if you're seeing anything like that, that's kind of pretty much that. I'll have pictures again in the Discord of all those specific settings on how I did those things, but you just go to custom, you can put in your custom thing like that. So that's kind of it for WarpDeplete. As you can see, most of that stuff is pretty easy. I really don't think anything I talked about is too crazy or dramatic. You just kind of make sure you do all the shared media stuff before you open WoW, including icons, fonts, all that good stuff. And then you want to come into WoW and import profiles. As I'm going to include, I'm just going to leave it in the video. If you don't have the shared media part, which for whatever reason I didn't copy over, I think it's because of the beta folder or whatever, but for whatever reason I didn't copy over, then when you import my ElvUi profile, you'll have that issue where it doesn't know what textures to use for things. So like for whatever reason, it's not using the correct textures for that. It's all good, not a big deal. If for whatever reason you want to change your fonts and stuff like that, this one's again, not setting my correct fonts. I use semi-bold for everything, semi-bold for this as well, boom. Pretty easy. You can do apply font to all as well. It should pretty much keep it universal across the board. And then, you know, that way you don't have to go through every single setting and change it if you want to keep them consistent. The nice thing is if you replace all the fonts, like I did, the default font most of the time is that Frizz QT or whatever. If you replace that font with Poppy Semi-Bold, then basically any font that didn't get replaced with Poppins will probably just be that font, and it'll be Poppins either way. So usually it's okay. The other thing I do want to briefly mention in this section is just kind of my philosophy behind UI design. I'm by no means a UI designer. I enjoy doing this stuff, but I'm just a graphic designer. You know, it's all good. Anyways, so I did want to quickly just touch on that. If you want to take my UI and just edit it, to go for it. Like, I have no problems with that at all. It does not bother me. I give this away for free to the community, man. No big deal at all. So I try and, you know, give the tools for that. That's why we're going to cover custom icons in the next section if people want to do that kind of stuff. But my philosophy for UI stuff is basically minimal information in front of you, but the most important information. So that's why I try to only have cooldowns here. I do have our dot uptimes here, but that's mainly just because of the pandemic timers and stuff that are on there, and just to kind of fill space because bars kind of got moved around a little bit, and I like to have that many buttons in my UI. If we lost more buttons, I would make more adjustments, but that's kind of what I'm used to. But for the most part, I only want to have buttons that are like cooldown based here. So the Blizzard Cooldown Manager kind of helps with that in terms of most of the things that you can even track are either trackable important things or things that have a cooldown, which is the only things that I think should be in the middle of your screen anyway. So that's kind of why I hide all of that information. I think that's a pretty standard thing in terms of that kind of stuff. I did kind of just briefly want to mention, like, I think that a lot of people get a little intimidated when trying to dig into their UI. And I think it should be something that you can, you know, adjust how you like it. You can start from somebody else's or start from mine and then kind of build off of that. If you do have questions about working on your UI and stuff like that, I have an entire Discord channel set up for things, and I'd be more than happy to help people. The one thing I would say if you are going to start doing that is use profiles to your advantage. So for instance, make a new profile and just, you know, do like test or whatever, and then just copy everything from the profile that you want to use as your base. And that way you have your old one to go back to. You know what I mean? Like, if this is my test one and I'm like, you know, trying to mess around with a bunch of little things, but it's not quite where I want it, but I need to go do a key or something, then I can just switch back to my other profile and then we're good to go, right? Like, everything in this profile is all set up, I'm good, and then, you know, we can go work on our other stuff. That way, if anything does go wrong design-wise, you can quickly go back to your old one, or you can kind of just keep copying that as your base and then be like, oh, okay, I want to go and look for that. Or you can easily be like, okay, what was the size of my, like, you know, my health bar that I was using for that, right? Or, you know, whatever, like, different like widths and things that I was using, or what was I using for this. Like you can just quickly switch between those profiles, super easy, do stuff like that. I think UIs are getting into like a whole crazy territory, especially with the whole midnight thing, and there was all that stuff going on with UIs and whatever. But anyways, I want to share all that stuff, and if there's anything I can do to help people, you know, build their own stuff, whether you're using Elv or whatever, I'm always happy to help. So let's jump into the actual custom icon section of this guide, and then we'll jump into that and we'll finish it all up. So this section is not going to be very long. I'm going to try and cover some like rough concepts here of how I went about making custom icons. I just kind of go very quickly through that. So the first step is getting the icon that you want to replace. So for instance, I have the corruption icon here, and you can see its title is Spell Shadow Abomination Explosion. The way that I found that is just by going to Wowhead and then typing in corruption. And then you're going to see a bunch of different things. It doesn't really matter which one it is. And then when you go to this icon, you can see by clicking the actual icon, if I click it, hold on, sorry. If I click this actual corruption icon, it's going to pull up what the icon name is, right? And that's going to tell me what the actual spell name is. So if I grab that and you've downloaded those Mechagnome custom icons or any custom icons or whatever, then you can just search in that folder for that actual file. If you didn't download those or whatever, you can also just, you know, screen grab this guy, just a little, you know, quick snipping tool, and then just paste that in here. So when you have that icon in here, then you can just do whatever adjustments you want to do to it. You can see this is the corruption icon. I did a bunch of different like masks and things like that, and some hue saturations, a little bit of brightness adjustments, stuff like that. I'm not going to get into any like graphic design principles for how you should go about doing these things, but just quickly doing that. And then, you know, I'm going to save this out. But the way that you save it is important. So you want to save a copy. So when you export that, you're going to want to export that as a targa file, which is this little guy down here, TRGA. And then you want to make sure you delete the copy part of this. Boop. And then make sure that it has the exact file name that icon was. So if, you know, I'm doing this one for corruption, then that file needs to be exactly named the same way. Spell _ shadow _ abomination explosion, capital S, blah, 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 whatever. And then save that as a target. And then you're going to take that file and put it in that folder that's icons that we talked about in the interface section earlier. And that's it. The biggest important part is that you save it as a target file. When you export a target, it'll ask you about color depth. You can either do 16 or 32. I do 32 for all of them. I don't think it really matters a whole lot, but if you want to save some space or whatever, do 16. 32 is fine. I think it hasn't caused any problems for me. So that's entirely up to you. But that's kind of the quick idea on how you should go about doing those things. I think the Mechagnome ones are really nice to work as a basis because they're really high quality icon. But you can also just snipping tool that stuff off of Wowhead. I'll just show you what the difference looks like from that. Okay, so I snipping tooled that, and look at the resolution difference from those two of these, man. Like, I can still edit this and it'll still work, right? It'll still work, but the resolution difference between these two is crazy, right? So highly recommend starting as a base with the Mechagnome ones if you're going to be doing this stuff. And again, extreme shout out to the person who does that project, because that is an entire thing in itself. Like, these look incredible. So would not be able to do any of that without these upscaled icons. But kudos to them for sure. But that's kind of just a quick little gist on how I do all that whole process. So if you're interested in making custom icons, all that good stuff, shout out to the Mechagnome creator. And then, you know, just go into Photoshop, or you can probably use any editing program if you want. The concept remains the same. Just export it as a target file, put it in that icons folder in your interface, and then should be good to go. All right, guys, that about wraps it up. Hopefully this kind of covered everything of getting the UI set up. It's a very common question on the Discord, and I wanted to kind of make this as a quick video in terms of getting people set up for that. So kind of somewhere I can just link from the Twitch or from the Discord if you want to like a full step-by-step process on how I set everything up and get you started. Obviously, there's still an add-on UI help channel in the Discord if you have any questions or if you have problems. It's all good. No worries. We'll help you figure it out. As far as the custom icon stuff, that's an entirely different world. I might be messing around with some Unholy DK this season, so I might make some Unholy DK icons, and I'm constantly making little adjustments to icons and stuff like that. There's a few others that I have my eye on for the Warlock kit. Like that corruption one might not be done. But either way, I think that stuff's really cool, and I think it's really fun, and it's something that I don't really see a lot of people do for their UIs. And I think it's another step that's just kind of fun, man. Especially those high quality icons from Mechagnome are dope, and they're really fun to work with. And I think it's a good time to kind of, you know, even like tailor your entire kit even more towards your aesthetic or whatever you want to do. So obviously it's just something fun, and it's nothing crazy. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, or if you want to grab mine that I've made, or if you're interested in like, definitely check out the Discord. I'm happy that I could share that information. Hopefully this helped you guys set that stuff up, man. I've been trying to do this for a little bit, and this video has been a little daunting for me. I don't want to get my UI stuff out there in case anybody wanted to use my stuff. It'll always be free in my Discord. No worries at all. I'm always happy to help and share that stuff. So if you like it, check that out. If not, it's all good. Hopefully it helped you in some way, man. But I'll see you guys over on the Twitch. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys in the next one.